Hi guys! In this lesson we'll add a glass facade to the building model. These are the base elements we'll be using in this lesson. Let's start with creating the first spline on the building model. Then, create a RailClone object. Add an array to S and export Y size as we did in the previous lessons. Also, rotate it by 90 degrees. Then, add a segment and pick the glass model. Add a spline object and pick the spline. As before, do a whole sequence to get the vertical number of objects and plug it to the Y slice. I will move the spline to the middle of the slab. I will also move it away from the building, so it's not overlapping. Next, copy the array and create 3 segments. Let's pick the spider models. Plug the side model to the start slot. Let me reverse the spline, so the start of the RailClone is in the correct place. I will change the display to mesh, so we can see everything clearly. Let's rotate the models. I will export the Z translation parameter in all the segments so we can position it in the right place according to the glass. Zoom in to adjust the values precisely. I will add the conditional operator. Here we can set up a more complicated sequence. Firstly, I enable the Y counter option and set it up to equal 1. This way, only the first segment will be different from the rest. Let's adjust the rotation. I will add the transform operator to both segments and export the top padding parameter. I will then plug the Y size of the glass window to create the spacing. The value is too large, so we need to make a subtraction. Change the type to scene units. Adjust both values manually. Disable the bend and slice options in the segment settings. Now we have to make a conditional function for the last object. It's not as easy as it was for the first one, but we'll get there. Also, enable the Y counter option and set it up to equal 5 for now. Then, mirror the corner segment and plug it to the true slot. Transform it so it fits well. it's working fine. But if we change the number, it's not correct anymore. To fix this, we'll have to make some calculations. Firstly, plug the vertical number parameter to the arithmetic operator. I will export segment y counter parameter and plug the arithmetic operator there. We need a number which is our vertical number plus 1. We can write an expression this time, but we can simply just add 1 using the add method. If you want to learn more about that, check the RailClone documentation. First, we have to specify the value type, integer in this case. Then create a custom name and make the equal sign. Finally, specify the value and add a semicolon. I will do one as a test. We can print the value to see if everything is correct. The counter value is shown here. Now we can place 1 with our formula. Input 1 takes the value from the input. We just have to add 1 and it's done. We have an error because the input is not integer. We have to use the real type. Now we have a correct output. Let's replace point with return to make it work. Now everything works well. Now let's create the end elements. We just have to mirror the front elements. Just checking if everything is working. Now, let's add the elements in the middle. I will plug the element to the X event list slot. We just have to specify the distance in the array settings. Let's export this parameter. Plug the X size of the glass there. Works well. I will add the bottom elements now. I will copy the conditional operators I used before and plug them to the X event list slot. Now we just have to add the first and last element and transform them to fit. works perfectly. I will copy the array and create the structure. Add 2 segments and pick the objects. I will disable the glass array so we can see it clearly. I will actually copy this array with the spiders as it has X-Evently parameter exported already. We just have to plug the vertical element to the X-Evently slot. Add it to the start and the end as well. Adjust the Z transformation for all of them. Next, let's move and adjust the start and the end elements using transform operators. Copy this array and create the horizontal elements. It's all the same, we just need to use Y-Evently instead of X-Evently option. Working well. Adjust the number of elements. Copy the RailClone element and pick another spline. Do it for all 4 sides. Awesome! See you in the next lesson.